Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Jamie Dean, and tonight we're just having a little bit of a hangout while I rank every game that I played this year, the year of our Lord 2023, which I've been looking forward to very much. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Very chill. I'm here. I've got my beverage. And we're just going to take it easy and have a bit of a wander through everything that I played this year, have a little chat about it, talk about what I thought about each of the games and where I rank them overall. And we're going to do that right here on this screen. Let me move my streaming garbage out of the way so I can see. All right, cool. So I ended up playing a surprising amount of games this year. Sam actually asked whether I thought I could do a top 10 games I played in 2023, and I was like, I don't know, I don't think I could. But when I actually sat down and lined them all up, I've played over 40 games this year. So yeah, sorry Sam, I could have done it as it turns out. So I did a little experiment this year. I kept a journal, which you can see on Instagram. You can follow along at Jamie Dean Plays, where I basically catalog everything I play and might say a little blurb about it, give it a bit of a first impressions ranking or something, a score. And I did that all the way through the year, and thank God I did, because if I didn't, like I said, it doesn't feel like I played very much this year, but it turns out that I actually did. So I'm really glad that I kept that journal, because it let me go back through everything and tally it all up so I could put it into this little tier list right here. And it was an interesting year. Like, it was a huge year. 2023 seemed to be a massive year for games this year. We got some banger titles, some really big hits, some really big misses. But overall, it just felt like a really grandiose kind of year for games. I played very few of the games that actually came out this year. So, yeah, sorry. You're not going to see a lot of like the 2023 current titles in my ranking list here. But I did play a lot of different stuff this year. I played a lot of stuff that was new to me. I played a lot of stuff that was very nostalgic, very retro, old games that I hadn't played before that I wanted to try. I played a lot of old games that I used to love and wanted to see whether they held up all these years, 20, sometimes 25 years later or more. So I had a really fun year sort of dabbling in that, and I can see that that's probably where I'll continue to delve into that well as we go forward. Filming videos for this channel. So yeah, a bit of an eclectic mix for me of modern and old and some stuff that was in between. So yeah, that's sort of my little intro bit, and now we can actually get into this. Before I do, let me just mention this real quick. I have played and finished some of these games. I have not finished the majority of the stuff on my list. So I'll just put that caveat out there. I don't subscribe to the notion that you need to complete something in order to formulate an opinion on it. Imagine starting a 10-season TV show and getting 3 episodes in and going, this isn't for me, but no, you must finish all 10 seasons before you're allowed to decide whether you like that or not. I think that's ridiculous. Complete bullshit. So I tend to play a game until I have had enough of it, whether I like it or don't like it, and then I drop it and move on, because there's so many games. There's so many games, guys, to play. So yes, if opinions need to be based on finished games, I don't have much for you. I'm sorry. All right. So without further ado, let's get on into this. All right. So I've put these in order, roughly, of chronological order in sort of time that I played them, start to finish, beginning of the year to the end of the year. We're just going to go through them. I'll throw them around. I'll probably shuffle things around a little bit as we go. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. Ever since I started the journal, I thought, man, it's going to be really fun doing like a tier list at the end of the year. And now I'm here. We're here. So let me pop out this little chat window here so I can see if any of you fine, lovely people mention anything. Feel free to, comment, leave comments. That's, God invented the comment section for a reason, and that is so you, the viewing public, can tell me why my opinions are incorrect or correct. Probably the former. So feel free to go ahead and do that. I love reading everything that you guys say, even if I don't agree. All right, let's get on into this. So, starting with Pokemon Brilliant Diamond was our first. Man, that seems like so long ago now that I played this. Like, it does not feel like that this was, this year, to be perfectly honest. But this is how I started out the year. And that's because I tend to start out the year every year with a Pokemon title. I mentioned this in my Pokemon Snap video. Pokemon and Christmas for me just go hand in hand. I don't know what it is. There's just something about Christmas that makes me start feeling like, oh, I want to play Pokemon. So last year for Christmas, I started out playing Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, and I continued that through, and it was my first game I was playing in 2023. Now, this is a contentious game. I know a lot of people had some issues with this game. It led to a fascinating conversation between Sam and I, because he also played Pokemon Diamond or Pearl, Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl this year. And it was interesting to me because I remember playing Platinum, and Platinum feeling like this huge, epic experience, right? 80 hours or so to get through Platinum for me. And then when I went in to play Brilliant Diamond, I flashed through that game in about between 20 and 25 hours to beat from beginning to Elite Four. And that left me feeling a little bit like a little bit let down, to be honest, like a little bit, I was sort of expecting, this big grandiose adventure like I remembered from Platinum. And it sort of like, it just felt like you breezed through the game, even though the physical map that you're traversing is the exact same map I remember, really. And you're not moving through the world any faster physically. And I couldn't work it out. And I think it's got an awful lot to do with reducing the grind. And I think it really shows just how grindy those sort of older gen Pokemon games were. Now, where do I put Brilliant Diamond? I actually had after that initial that's over, and it felt like it was over very quickly. It didn't feel terribly fulfilling. Sam brought up a really good point in that he would rather a 25-hour experience that he can actually feasibly finish rather than an 80-hour grinding slog that in our lives now as responsible adults, we're very likely not going to get through, right? And he's got a really good point. Like, I went and thought about that, and I was like, you know what? I think you're right, Sammy. So I kind of ended up appreciating that it was a breezier time. I certainly appreciated the lack of the grind, because I hate grindy games. I really do. But where to put Brilliant Diamond? I'm thinking this is going to go... I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it. I had fun. Despite some of its flaws, I didn't come across any of the bugs that people were reporting. I get that playing it in 2023 is a good amount of time after the game was released. I'm thinking it's probably going to sit in about a B for me. Maybe sort of a mid to high B. I'm not a huge fan of that generation of Diamond and Pearl the originals. I think that's where Pokemon Gen 4 is kind of where Pokemon started to jump the shark a little bit. It's where it started to move away from the very grounded world of 1 and 2, and 3 to a lesser extent. 4 is where we're talking, we're dealing with multiverses, and we're dealing with, deities, and we're dealing with time and space, and, it got well away from, hey, you're a kid, go and travel the world and defeat the 8 gym leaders so that you can enter the Elite Four, which is what I love about Pokemon. And Gen 4 started to really divert away. Like that was still obviously the game, but it wasn't the focus of the game anymore. This huge, bigger, larger than life story was kind of hanging over everything. And so I don't tend to like Gen 4 as much as I like some of the others. Even though, I had a very good time with Platinum, enjoyed it very much, enjoyed Brilliant Diamond. I think I'm going to set it at about a B for now. We'll see. It might move around as we go through this, but for now, I think a B is fine. It's very quiet in here. Let's get some music going. What do you reckon? I think I queued something up. Speaking of Pokemon, just reminded me actually that I had some music to play. How's that? You guys hear that okay? Hopefully that isn't too terribly loud. I'll turn it down just a touch there. So it's just sitting in the background. If it's too loud, just let me know. I'll turn it down. Right. So, that's what I think. Yeah, Brilliant Diamond. I had fun. I enjoyed it. Wasn't the best Pokemon game. Didn't blow my head off. But I had a better time than the absolute bucket of crap that everyone seemed to think Brilliant Diamond was. The look of it seemed to turn a lot of people off. I quite liked the look of it. It really reminded me of Final Fantasy VII. Where you got like the really cartoony, chibi, boxy characters in the overworld, and then they become the more fully formed, realistic looking models in battles. It gave me a little bit of that Final Fantasy VII vibe, which I dig. I thought that was cool. So, didn't have a problem with that particular issue that a lot of people seem to. Alright, next up, Planet Zoo. Planet Zoo, I didn't play a whole lot of. Holy shit. Planet Zoo is... Planet Zoo is a deep game. I like park builders. I like theme park builders and anything in that kind of genre, like Roller Coaster Tycoon, that sort of thing. Any of those kinds of games. Jurassic World Evolution, I'm actually a pretty big fan of. I really like that one. So I got Planet Zoo for my daughter, actually. And yeah, that might have been a mistake. I think she really liked the idea of it. Loved the idea of it. And to her credit, she got a lot further through it than I did. But man, if you want like a crunchy game, Planet Zoo has got you covered. Holy crap. If you want to be able to go down to a granular level and decide like things like the amount of protein in the kibble that this particular animal that your mongoose is eating on Tuesday afternoons on a rainy day, if it's winter. That's kind of what Planet Zoo feels like. I know you don't have to drill down to that level, but it certainly feels a lot like that. Okay, yeah. So that's... I bounced off that one pretty hard. Not that it's a bad game. It just wasn't for me at all. So that one for me is probably... like, I can appreciate that it's really good. I can appreciate if you like that experience. And this was hard for me, like, because I can see how a game is really good and it's just not for me. I'll try and do this tier list as a less objective... I mean, there's no such thing as an objective opinion, but I'll try and be as subjective as possible, in which case I would probably put Planet Zoo at a high D for me. Yeah, I wanted to like that one a lot more than I ended up doing. that was intense. Super Mario Odyssey. This is the first game that my daughter ever completed entirely by herself. So it's pretty cool, a pretty special one, Mario Odyssey. I played it a bit in the past back then when it first came out with her. And I played it again this year with my partner, who had never played it, who's a huge Mario fan. And it's a good one. I mean, I'll say this, right? I don't like Mario. I know, contentious topic, right? I don't like Mario games. I never have been a fan of the Mario platformer, and I think it's because just maybe a lack of exposure. Like, a lot of people are really nostalgic for Mario, where I'm just not. Like, I was playing Mega Man when other people were playing Mario. I never owned a Mario platformer back in the day on the NES or the SNES or anything like that. So I don't have this like nostalgic connection to Mario that a lot of people do. And I don't find the gameplay terribly endearing. I hate the controls with a passion. I hate the floaty, drifty, momentum-based control scheme that Mario has. I don't like it that when you stop moving, Mario doesn't stop. He sort of like gradually stops, and when you time to go, he gradually gets going. Yeah, I don't I don't enjoy that at all. So I was surprised at how much I liked Super Mario Odyssey. It's probably my favorite Mario game. I wasn't a big fan of other 3D Marios either. I didn't particularly like Super Mario 64. I know. Contentious, I know. But I liked this one. A surprising amount. This game is like a joy, distilled joy, I think, in a game. And if someone was going to play only one Mario game ever, Mario Odyssey would certainly be a contender for one that I would recommend, right? So for me, I think Mario Odyssey, it's either a high B, low A. I mean, it's still Mario. I still don't love it. But I did like it quite a lot, and a lot more than I thought I would. I think that's more the thing here. It was a surprising like, this one. I'm gonna put it. I'll put it in A for now. It'll probably be a low A for me. We'll see if it stays there. All right, moving on. Civ 6. Now this is here. Obviously, I played Civ. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. I have played Civ 6 on the PC a decent amount in the past. This is on the list because this is on the Switch. I remember picking up Civ 6 on like a Boxing Day sale or something like that on the eStore, and didn't get around to playing it until early this year. And it's good. It's surprisingly good on the Switch, but like, I can see they've done their best. They've done their best to translate that experience onto that platform, and I think they've actually done a surprisingly good job. But it still doesn't replace a mouse and keyboard, you know, and I don't think it's ever going to. So I already own Civ 6 on the PC. I thought it'd be really fun to have as a portable experience, and it is, and it's, like I said, they do it surprisingly well. I would just rather play it on the PC pretty much every time. I'm going to... where to put this? Like I said, it is good. I'm going to put it in high C, okay? It's decent. It's fun. It's just not the optimal... If you want Civ 6 on the go, like if you're a Civ fanatic and you want to be able to take this and play it on the toilet or in bed or on the bus or whatever, or at work, then I would say yes, get the Switch version. It is actually surprisingly good. It's just, I think that complex a menu system, they had to really layer things, and so you're spending a lot of time like going through tiers of menus, and I didn't like that so much, even though I can't see any other way that they would have done it, right? So I'm going to put it as a high C. Even though it's a high C, I do think it's decent. It's just I would rather play it elsewhere. Spelunky. So this is an older one. that I only played for the first time this year. So, I don't like roguelikes. I don't know why I chose to play Spelunky. That's an excellent question. Why would I play a game in a genre I don't like? I think it's because it was just such a classic. It's just this, this massive indie hit that I had never tried. And so when I got the chance to get it for like $1 or $2, I snatched it up and decided to give it a go. And I quite enjoy it for what it is, for sure. I mean, it hasn't convinced me to love roguelikes. But I can see the appeal, for sure. Is it for me? I mean, I haven't really gone back to it since I played it. I gave it a couple of tries. I played some co-op with my partner in Spelunky. She was not a big fan at all. Look, I'll put this one at I'll put it at a high C. Only because, yeah, it's a genre I am not a fan of, and if you don't like roguelikes, then you're probably not going to love Spelunky. But appreciate what it did. I had a decent time when I was playing it. It's just not an experience I'm going to want to go back to over and over again. All right, Pokemon Sword. So when I wrapped up Brilliant Diamond surprisingly quickly, usually after a Pokemon game, I'm just burned out on Pokemon. And I think that's because, again, back in the day, they were like an 80-hour grind fest, right? And I didn't want to look at another Pokemon game for at least 6 months, and then I get the itch again to go again, right? But because Brilliant Diamond wrapped up so fast, it sort of left me sort of hungry for another Pokemon game, which was unusual for me. And so we had Pokemon Sword, we had Pokemon Shield, actually, because Pokemon Shield is a game that my daughter Nala is incredibly fond of. She really, really likes it. I think it might be her favorite Pokemon game. Not that she's played all that many, but of the ones she's played, that's the one that she likes the most. So I picked up Sword with the idea of the two of us doing like a run through together simultaneously, right? Not playing co-op, just side by side. I thought that'd be fun. I think that's a fun thing to do with Pokemon games if you've got like a family member or a friend or significant other. They're a really cool experience to have parallel, right? And you can sort of like treat each other as like your rivals, maybe have a linked battle after every gym badge, something like that. I get a kick out of doing that sort of thing. And Pokemon Sword, if you do follow that game journal, I actually raved about this game when I first played it, right? It made a really, really good first impression on me. Even though it was very hand-holdy, all Pokemon games are very hand-holdy. This one was probably overbearingly hand-holdy at the beginning. But I think after the series going the way it did in Gen 4, right? And going those big, epic, world-ending storylines, and Gen 3 even to a certain extent as well, right? Those huge, grandiose, overarching stories. I was really excited with what the premise of Pokemon Sword, of getting back to a storyline that's about a kid entering the Pokemon League and taking on the gym challenge. Like that I think I got really, really excited for that. And I kind of fell in love with that premise. And I really liked the way that it positioned that as well. Like, if Pokemon were real, the way Pokemon Sword portrays gym battles and the Pokemon League, like that's like as basically like, like a soccer league, or a football league. That's how it would probably be, right? Like I could see it with a stadium with crowds and big screens and TV coverage. Like that's how it would be if this was a real thing. And so I kind of dug all of that for a little while. This is one that I've really flip-flopped on. Or I should say I've really done a almost 180 on, from that massively awesome first impression of just loving what this game was putting out there. I found myself falling out of love with Pokemon Sword fairly quickly and fairly hard. because it's a very, for me, I found it to be a very shallow experience, and not that Pokemon games are, or any of them are super deep, but this one, for me to say this is a shallow experience in the scheme of Pokemon games should tell you something if you haven't played it. Yeah, I wanted to love it. I wanted to love it so bad. Nala loves it so much. I wanted to love it for her, but I just found myself getting, like, it just was so soulless, I found. You know, something I love about Pokemon is the way the world is almost like a main character, right? The region that you're in is its own main character. And, you know, when you travel through Kanto, for example, or Johto, each town that you come through, or city that you pass through, they all have something that makes them memorable. It's like, you know, they've all got one or two things that just stick in your mind as like, oh, Cerulean City, that's the Nugget Bridge, right? That's where Bill has messed himself up. Or Vermilion City. Oh, that's where the Saint Anne is. I think that's the name of it, the Saint Anne. The ship, you know what I'm talking about. You know, Lavender Town. That's where the Pokemon Tower is, with the graveyards and the ghosts. And, you know, each town just has a thing that makes it memorable. There's something there that it's like its own little side story. Every town you go to, you're really excited to find out what is the character of this place. And there's always something that engages you, that makes it stick in your mind. Sword totally ditched all that. There was nothing in these towns, man. And I was so disappointed. Like, most of the towns are just completely devoid of life. There's literally nothing there other than a gym. And so you go to the town, you fight the gym, you move on, and that's it. That's the town done. So I can't tell you the names of any of the towns. I can barely remember what they look like. It was so disappointing. And after, like, repeatedly town after town after town being like that, I was just getting crushed. I felt like I was just getting, my soul was just getting ground down the longer I played this game, until I got onto, like, the 8th gym or something, and I just stopped because I had had enough. I couldn't find anything to love, any joy in the game at all, because it was just so devoid of soul. So unfortunately for me, Pokemon Sword ended up being down here. It went from, like, in its first sort of initial pitch of what it was as a Pokemon game, what it was like, the premise of it, I was loving. It was up here as an A, right? And then as I played it, and that initial euphoria passed, and then I realized, oh, there's nothing here. There's no game here. It just kept falling and kept falling and kept falling. Yeah, I'd say it's probably ended up about there, unfortunately. And I like, that breaks my heart, because I really, really wanted to love it. And, yeah, no good. Sam, hang on. Sam's having a go at me now because I put Spelunky as a C. Look, man, I don't like roguelikes. I don't want to tell you. I appreciate that it's a fantastic game. It's just not one for me. I wish I loved it. It's one of the better roguelikes I've played for sure. C's good. C's alright. Alright. Alright, moving on. Sea of Stars. So this, I will, again, caveat, this is only based on the demo that I played. I have not played the actual full release. I only played through the demo. It's only on here as a bit of a formality, really. But my impressions of the demo, of what I played of the demo, were fantastic. I do, again, like roguelikes, I'm not a JRPG fan. And yes, I understand Pokemon's a JRPG, very good. That's my one exception to the rule, really. For the most part, it's just not a genre, because it's such a big, engrossing, like, you know, it's like a huge beast, any JRPG you take on. You know, you're looking at like 100+ hour experience, really deep, really, like, involved. They're just not, I tend to bounce off them pretty quick. Sea of Stars really, like, the demo really grabbed me. Like, this is one that I would really like, if I have the time, to go back and play the full release on. And you may end up seeing this on my 2024 tier list next year, if I get the time and the chance to play this fully soon. But what I played, I really liked. So I'm going to put, probably, I'll put it up here, I reckon. So I love the art. It's a gorgeous game. Absolutely beautiful. I'm a sucker for pixel art. If you watched our top 10 most beautiful games list, you'll know that I'm an absolute sucker for gorgeous pixel art. Sea of Stars nails, absolutely nails that 16-bit look. Like, it is so good. If you haven't seen screenshots or footage of the game, or you haven't played the demo yourself, give it a shot and you'll see what I'm talking about very, very quickly. The combat system was really interesting. The writing was interesting. The world seemed interesting. Like, yeah, I was really surprised. I downloaded the demo and played it because of how it looked. Straight up, that's why I went to engage with that, purely based on aesthetics. And then I was super duper surprised to find a JRPG that I actually started to really enjoy underneath that. So yeah, one I'm definitely keen to go back and try. It'll probably sit about there. Again, like I said, a bit of a formality because it's only the demo. Alright. Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now, let me have a little drink before this one. Alright. So Fire Emblem, I've never played a Fire Emblem game. It's a genre that looked on the surface to be like, it's a genre that I love. Like, I love games like Advance Wars is the first one that comes to mind, right? Those sort of turn-based tactical games, those tactical combat games. I really enjoy those games. Wargroove is another one. XCOM is another one, a really good one. That series. Any of those sorts of games I tend to get on with really, really well. And that's what Fire Emblem is. So when I was looking at it, I thought, wow, how have I not ever played a Fire Emblem game? Like, they should be games that this should be a series that I am, a huge fan of, and playing every release that comes out that I can get my hands on, right? So I picked up, I sort of did a bit of digging, asked around, and Three Houses came as a very high recommendation on one to start on. So, I bounced off it pretty hard. It could have been the time that I chose to play it. It could have been, I don't know, like, Three Houses had a little bit, or what I played of it had, not a little bit, it had some of that turn-based tactical combat that I enjoyed. I didn't find it super compelling, though. This particular iteration of it. I didn't find it anywhere near as fun as something like Advance Wars or Wargroove. But coupled with that, it had, again, a very, very deep, very involved JRPG underpinning throughout the game. Where, when you were not playing through a tactical turn-based combat scenario, you were running around an academy talking to other people who were at the academy, teachers, other students, going on little mini quests inside the academy. Like, there was this whole other game, right? And Jamie didn't like a Japanime dating sim war driver. Shocking. I know, man. Look, I wanted to give it a go. I wanted to give it a try, Like, I'm someone who'll try anything. I'll give anything a shot, But yeah, I was looking at it and I was like, when you start playing a game, right? And when you get a few hours in and you sort of start thinking about, what have I actually achieved in the 10 hours that I've played this? Not a whole lot. And you sort of get this very sinking feel. Well, I do. Some people find this really exciting. I don't. I get a bit of a sinking feeling of like, oh, this is a really long game. This is going to be a really long game. Oh. And that's sort of where I went with it. Look, I would probably put it there, low C for me. If you like tactical turn-based combat and really big, deep JRPG experiences, I can see Fire Emblem Three Houses being like a fucking slam dunk for you. I don't like one half of that equation, and in Three Houses, it didn't feel like it was half the equation. It felt like it was like 80% of the equation. So it's a case of like, I thought I was getting something when I went in, and what I got was something very different to what I was expecting to get. You know, it's like when you go to a restaurant and you order something you've never had before, and then they bring it out and you're like, oh, I did not think that's what that was. That's sort of what happened here with Three Houses. So I'll put it there for now. But yeah, man, I was so disappointed. I was so geared up to find this new series that I could really dig into and go back and play multiple games. Maybe I should try another one. Maybe Three Houses just was the wrong one to start on. I'd be, willing to give it another crack if anyone had a recommendation for a different title in this series that maybe is more about the things I like. All right, Hades. Hades is not a new game for me this year. I have played Hades before, played it when it was released. Hades is a game I have thrown myself at for hours and hours and hours and never even come remotely close to finishing. And then my buddy Alan goes, "Hey Jamie, did you know there's a like a god mode that you can turn on where you get a little bit stronger every time you die? You should check if you've got that turned on." I was like, "Oh, okay. Surely I've done that because I'm not very good at these games. Like I'm fucking garbage trash at this type of twitchy, fast-paced combat sort of roguelike sort of style game. I'm like those bullet hell, anything like that, I'm garbage at. So I'm impressed I got as far as I did, to be perfectly honest, in Hades, given that my skill set. But I went and checked, and no, I did not have that god mode turned on. So I turned it on and gave the game another bash, finding, however, that my skills, my honed face scrape trial by fire skills that I had slowly and arduously developed when the game came out, had completely abandoned me. And it was basically like starting again from scratch. So I didn't do any better on my second lash at it. This is, I've said with Spelunky that I don't like roguelikes. Hades is the exception, again, to that rule. Like, the same as Pokemon's the exception to I'm not a big JRPG fan. Hades is the exception to this one. I fucking adore Hades. I love everything about it. I love how it looks. I love the writing. I love the acting in it. I love the story in it. It's such a cool story. The way that it integrates, like, the concept of a roguelike, like the mechanics of what makes that genre what it is, into the actual storyline is absolutely genius. Genius. I love it to bits. I just suck at it. Big time. I'm so bad at Hades. Really, really bad. But this is an easy, for me, an easy A tier game. It may, if it wasn't a roguelike, it'd be S tier. No question. But it's like, it's a very, I find it to be a very difficult game, obviously. Just because of the genre. And because I'm an old man who doesn't have very good reflexes anymore. But that's a high A. It might even move up to S. We'll see how we go. I might reshuffle it back up to S. But at the moment, we'll leave it there. It's a absolute banging game. Really good. If you haven't played it, that's like if you like those like really fast-paced, twitchy combat style games, Hades is like an absolute must-play. It's so good. So good. All right, Metroid Prime. So I owned Metroid Prime back in the day on the GameCube, and I didn't like it. I think back then, what was I playing back then? I think I was expecting... this was a little bit like a Three Houses situation. I think I was expecting something else. I'd never played a Metroid game before in my life. So, Metroid Prime on the GameCube was my very first Metroid game. And back then, clearly, Metroidvania-style games were not my cup of tea. Because I did not like it at all. I think I was expecting something like GoldenEye, right? I think I was expecting like a run-and-gun first-person shooter. And Metroid Prime was not that at all. Fast forward however many years later, 20 years later or whatever, and they did the remaster. And I thought, you know what? I fucking love Metroidvanias now. Metroid Prime's a classic. I need to give this another shot. So I did. Didn't take well to it the second time either, I'm going to be honest. Not because it's a bad game. I think just because... I don't know. I feel like maybe that genre in 3D just doesn't really do anything for me. I think I like the 2D nature of Metroidvanias. I think adding a third dimension changed things somehow. And maybe that's a crazy thing to say, but for me, I think that's something I didn't like about it. I think also it holds up remarkably well. Like, I mean, it's incredible how well this 20-year-old game holds up and is still like a fun, competent, mechanically sound game all these years later. But I definitely got the feeling when I played it that it did feel old. Like, it felt like an old game. There's some old design kind of choices in it that sort of harken back to the 2000, early 2000s sort of thing. That era that have been cleaned up a lot now. So I didn't enjoy that aspect of it. I was really disappointed. And I put this on my top 10 biggest disappointments because I was so eager to love this game on a second try now that I do love the genre. But yeah, it still just didn't do it for me. And I know that's, again, going to be a really contentious thing to say. But Metroid Prime, I wanted to love you so much. I think it's still very good. Don't get me wrong. It's still very, very good. I think I'd still put it... I'd still probably put it here. Maybe. Maybe high C. Maybe low B. Somewhere around there. I think the reason it was on my top 10 disappointments list that we did this year is because I was expecting it to be S tier. I was expecting this to just like, oh my god, this is like a top tier pantheon of gaming title that I can't wait to sink into now that I enjoy the genre. And it just kind of fell flat for me. Not because it was bad, just because I was expecting greatness, you know? And maybe that was my problem. Maybe that's more to do with me than the game, as will probably be apparent for most of this list. Look, I'll put it there for now. Low B. Because, you know, I didn't have a terrible time with it when I was playing it. I just didn't love it as much as I wanted to. Speaking of not loving things as much as I wanted to, just to bury the lead on this one. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Oh boy. Okay. Here's where we lose our viewers. So, I didn't have a great time with Tears of the Kingdom. I think it is a phenomenal achievement. I think that's the right word for it. It's an incredible accomplishment that works and runs as well as it does on the Switch. That is mind-blowing to me. Sam's out. Sam's done. But I did an essay on this year because I really came away and thought about it. Like Tears of the Kingdom, like Breath of the Wild is one of my favorite games of all time, right? And so when I heard that they were going to make a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, I was excited, but also like does Breath of the Wild does it really need a sequel? I don't think it did. I really don't think it did. And I think when it came out, again, I was prepped to love it. I really wanted to love it. It didn't come out in a time where I had the capacity to give the game its due. And also, it just had a different feel, a very different feel. I think, for me, it lost a lot of what made Breath of the Wild magical. It sort of, it became very, like, full to bursting kind of thing. Very, what's the word I'm trying to think of here? Very FOMO-inducing almost. You know, there was so much in this game that it was overwhelming. I won't go into it a lot because, like I said, I did a video essay on it. If you want to hear my in-depth thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom and why I didn't like it, not because it's a terrible game, it's an amazing game, but because of, I guess, where my headspace was when I played it and my expectations and all that sort of thing, you can go and watch that video essay on the channel and hear more about my thoughts on that. Overall, man... Tears, where am I going to put you? This is so hard. Why did I decide to do a fucking tier list? I don't know. Because I'm trying to get out of my objective mind in appreciating that it's a fucking incredible game that I just didn't really click with. And try and get more in sync with the fact that I just didn't really click with it, right? If I do an objective, try and do as objective a tier list as possible, it's going to be a really boring fucking tier list. So, I think for me, it would probably sit about here. I think that's about right. Because I'm fairly confident, like I played some of it, don't get me wrong. I didn't play a whole ton of it. But I did play... Like, I was present while Nala played it. So I kind of have absorbed the experience through osmosis, right? And so I do feel like I've seen a lot of what Tears of the Kingdom has to offer, right? So I'm sitting here trying to think, is it a game I'll ever go back to and play for myself now that I've seen and kind of experienced the whole thing anyway? Maybe one day, you know. Yeah, it was just very full. I didn't like the mechanical nature of it, like the making machines, the building contraptions. My brain just doesn't. I draw things, man. Like I don't. My brain just doesn't like that stuff. I don't find it enjoyable. I found the story. Everyone was raving about the story. I don't know what they were talking about. Like, it was a fucking weird story that really reached, I think. There was a lot of things in there that were like, what is going on, guys? You know, where are you pulling these ideas from? Look, I probably maybe there. I'll leave it there. Maybe there. I apologize to the, 2 people that potentially watching this video that just turned it off. Great game. If you love it, brilliant. I can see why. If someone told me Tears of the Kingdom is my favorite game of all time, I'd be like, yeah, I get it. I can see why. It's amazing. It's just not for me. Just not for me. I enjoyed Breath of the Wild and what it did a lot better than Tears. It is what it is, fellas. It is what it is. Alright. Moving on. World of Warcraft. And I've got Battle for Azeroth on here. Now, so I played a bit of WoW this year after not having played WoW for a very, very, very long time. WoW... WoW is something that I will always have really fond, beautiful memories of, right? Like a lot of people. A lot of nostalgia. And having not played it for a while, like, again, this came about because Nala started playing WoW for the first time this year. And she was smitten. Like, she loved it. And so I thought, you know what, I'll go back and I'll give it another go. I'll see what's happening. It's a beautiful game. I still think it's a beautiful game. I enjoyed my time playing. Well, I've got Battle for Azeroth on here because that's the campaign. That's the storyline that I played through, because apparently you had, when I played it, you had to play Battle for Azeroth before you were allowed to play any of the other expansions. I wanted to play Warlords of Draenor, but no. I had to play Battle for Azeroth. And I didn't hate Battle for Azeroth. Like, I really liked going to Zandalar. I love dinosaurs. I love jungles. I love all that sort of stuff. So I really enjoyed that zone and playing through that zone. It's just kind of like, it's a bit of a mindless experience, really, isn't it? You know, like, I had fun. I had fun looking at the locations and looking at the art direction and how far the art direction has come since I last played it. And I didn't dislike my time with the game. Like, I leveled a character all the way through that storyline to the very end. And I enjoyed that entire time with it. But then I was kind of like, you know what, I'm done. Because it's still, at the end of the day, it's still WoW. You know, like, it's, nothing had really changed. It was still World of Warcraft. It's still getting quests to go and do a thing, to kill a certain amount of things, or go somewhere and click on a thing, and then come back and get experience, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. And so that got old. And they dress it up. Like, they've done a lot to dress up that loop, that gameplay loop, but they haven't done I was surprised at how little they had done to change that gameplay loop. Like, it still felt like the WoW that I remembered from way back then, but without all of the nostalgia and social memories that made WoW special back in Vanilla and Burning Crusade days, right? So, yeah, it's a tricky one. Maybe there. Maybe here. Because I did enjoy it. I did have a good time with it. I'll put it there. I'll put it as a low B. And we'll see how it sits there for a little while. Like I said, I had fun. But when I was done, you know? And I didn't ever feel like fulfilled, I suppose, is the word I'm trying to think of. I didn't come away feeling like it was a fulfilling experience. Alright. Diablo 4. Oh boy. Sam, where should I put this? Diablo 4, man, I have run like the roller coaster of emotions with Diablo 4. I went from, and I'm a big Diablo fan, okay? So up front, this is coming from someone who loves Diablo as a franchise, right? As a story, as the lore, the games that came before it. I love Diablo. New category under Diablo Immortal, Sam says. So I went from when Diablo 4 was announced, and so the little bits of tidbits of information started to come out about what it was, being this like online only experience, and not, yes, okay, Diablo 3, but I mean like an MMO-esque experience. My expectations could not have been any lower at that point, to the point where I was actually completely uninterested for the first time ever in a Diablo game. I had zero interest in Diablo 4. Did not intend on playing it at all. Did not like the direction they were going. To me, like, mounting up and riding a horse across an open world is about as antithetical to Diablo and what Diablo is as it's possible to get, I think, in an MMO environment where you can run into other players. No, thank you. No, thank you very much. And that opinion of mine lasted right up until the open beta released, where I can't remember why I gave it a shot. I don't know what convinced me to try it. I think it's because everybody was trying it. Sam, we had a group of friends who were all going to jump in and give it a go. I thought, fuck it, I'll jump in and have it. It's not going to cost me anything to try it. Let's just try it. And I went from being wholly uninterested in this game to, wow, this is actually really great. This is looking amazing. So I will say this about Diablo 4. It makes a phenomenal first impression, I think. Phenomenal first impression. It certainly did that to me. It took me from being completely uninterested in it to, yes, I want to play this game, right? Total turnaround. Won me over, well and truly. There were some things about it that I didn't like in the beta, but, you know, given that my expectations were in the fucking garbage, I was willing to overlook those because I was so impressed by the things I did like. Then the game came out. And again, it made a good first impression, but I think the longer you played through the campaign, and it didn't even take very long, honestly, before it started to show the signs of, yeah, this game's not finished. This is not a finished experience. Where we just paid 110 Australian dollars to keep playing a beta. And so I kind of went from like loving it. Oh god, there's a lot of padding in this campaign. This story is not. Oh no, oh god. And by the end of it, I was really disappointed. Now everyone praises the story in Diablo 4. That's why I'm there. That's what I love about Diablo, is the lore and the story, the campaigns. That's my thing. I think they were coping, to be honest. Like, that story, I was so excited because, you know, Lilith and Inarius, that, like, having them as the main characters, the main big, you know, villains, so to speak, in the game, was really, really exciting because, you know, as far as a lore perspective goes, that was kind of the last thing left that they hadn't plumbed for content for a game. And so when they came up as being the main story the game was going to be based around, I was like, wow, this could be great. This could be really, really great. Man, that campaign was a mess. Like, I think everyone who loved the campaign, I think it was just a juxtaposition of how much they disliked a lot of the other stuff, that it made the campaign look better than it actually was. It was not a great campaign. It was not a great story. It was not a great told story. Very much compromised by the open world. It was very segmented, very scattered, not clearly delineated storytelling. Again, Sam and I sat down and did a how to fix Diablo 4 video that you can go and watch to get our in-depth thoughts on Diablo 4 several months after its release. We go into a lot there, but yeah. Sam said they liked the lore they read around the game, not the actual story in the game. Yes, I agree. Yeah, very much so. And in fact, this game, you know, it really, I think, was very adversarial to people who had never played Diablo before. And from all accounts, that's a shitload of people. A lot of people have had their first experience with the Diablo game with Diablo 4. But the story seems to expect you to know some pretty deep lore shit external to the game and games as a series, right? Because again, Lilith and Inarius have never been in any of the games. So the only way to really know what's going on with them is to go elsewhere. And it's not really clearly explained exactly who they are, what the fuck is going on anywhere in the game at all, really. They put some lore videos out on YouTube. Like, that's just silly. Like, yeah, anyway. So I went up and down on the game. I had a good time. Like, I can't sit here and say that it's the worst game ever made. Like, it's not. The parts that I enjoy about Diablo 4, I do enjoy. There are parts in there that I really like. The moment-to-moment combat and gameplay, I think, is fun. But again, being the story nerd that I am, I was really let down by that. When you got to the end of the campaign, there was really fuck all to do. It sounds like there's a little bit more to do now, but it just sounds like checklist, busy work, grind shit that I don't care about. It's a game I can see myself coming back to in like another 12 months' time when they've finished it, you know? It really does seem like they just shat out the bare bones of an experience and started charging money for it, and were like, all right, that'll keep them happy. Let's actually finish the game now. And that just doesn't fly with me. I mean, I liked it better than these two. Green Helltides, yeah, that's it, Sam. I liked it better than Pokemon Sword and Planet Zoo. I liked it better than Fire Emblem. I liked it better than Civ on the Switch. I mean, I did enjoy it better than Spelunky. I can obviously appreciate that Spelunky's a better game, but I enjoyed my experience with it better than that. I think it probably sits about there for now, right? Again, not trying to be subjective about it. I think that's probably where it lies for me. It's all right, you know. It's a fairly bland experience, and that's, you know, that's pretty much what a C tier game is, really, you know. So I think that's where it'll live for now. Here's hoping it gets great, but there's so many fucking things to play. Like, it's gonna have to get amazing for me to go back and really dive into it again. I don't know. They're gonna have to do something special, I think. So coming off the back of my disappointment with Diablo 4, I actually went to the Division 2, looking for another, like a loot-based experience. So bad it drove me to Ubisoft. I liked the Division. The first game I quite enjoyed, actually. I did not like the Division 2 as much. It was the setting, largely, I think. It had some cooler gadgets, I felt. I love the cover-based shooting of this series. It's so tight. It's so slick. If you like cover shooters, the Division is a fucking great one. But it is repetitive. See you, Sammy. Take it easy, man. It's a repetitive experience. The things you're doing, the missions that you come across, the scenarios you come across are very much the same over and over and over again. But being in a frozen New York City, like sort of in the middle of winter, post-apocalyptic kind of setting, that was a really cool location to explore and traverse and have that experience in. Whereas the Division 2 in DC, just like, it just kind of just feels like another city, you know? The way it was portrayed in the game in sort of midsummer, I'm guessing, there was just nothing characterful about it, or at least in the part that I played. So I had a good time with it. I did enjoy the what I played of it. I played it for a decent amount of hours, but it never really like hooked me into, like, you know, it never really gave me the looter experience that I was chasing to fill the Diablo hole in my life at that point. So I'd probably sit Division 2 probably about there. Probably a high C is where it'll live for now. All right, Baldur's Gate 3. I am glad that Sam has left, so I can now freely talk about this one. All right, let's talk Baldur's Gate 3. Amazing game. Incredible game. And again, like Tears of the Kingdom, phenomenal accomplishment. However, let me just frame this for a second. I don't like this style of game. I don't like party-based. Again, it's a big reason why I don't like JRPGs, to be honest. I don't like party-based RPGs where you have to, where you're responsible for controlling a group of characters, right? I haven't liked the previous two Baldur's Gate games. I haven't liked almost any, and I've because I love Dungeons and Dragons. I absolutely adore Dungeons and Dragons. It's very, very special to me. But I have hardly liked any of the D&D games. So I didn't like either of the past two Baldur's Gate games. I didn't like, what's the other one I played? Temple of Elemental Evil, I think it was. I didn't like Icewind Dale that much. I think the only one I really liked was Neverwinter Nights. And I think I loved Neverwinter Nights, right? Like, Neverwinter Nights is like a massive high-tier game for me. And I need to go back and play the remaster. But I think I loved Neverwinter Nights because it was just you, you know? Like, I think every now and then you could have a companion with you, or not. But it wasn't like a party of characters. It was just yourself, you know? And so that's what I like when I play an RPG. I just like to have it's just me. It's just my character that I need to worry about, and I can get attached to that character. As soon as you start throwing more characters in there, I kind of glaze over and lose interest, and I don't really care. Baldur's Gate 3 kind of had that problem for me. I think Baldur's Gate, I mean, it's not a perfect game by any means. I think a lot of the good press is wholly deserved. But I also think a lot of the good press that Baldur's Gate 3 got was sort of people who were feeling cheated and disappointed in Diablo 4. And they were looking for a life raft to cling onto. Baldur's Gate 3 came out. It was feature complete. It was a massive experience in a boxed package that was done. It wasn't like, here's the start of a game that we're charging you for and we'll finish it over the next few years. And so everyone like latched onto that and felt better and sort of praised the hell out of it. And I think maybe overlooked, because of that, some of Baldur's Gate 3's shortcomings. I don't think, personally, that the 5th edition D&D system translates very well at all to a combat-based experience. I just don't. I don't think 5th edition was ever created with that in mind. 5th edition is if you've ever played D&D recently, it'll probably be 5th edition, and it's a very open, free-form kind of experience, right? That just is really hard to codify in a party-based tactical combat game. It just gets lost in translation because it was never meant to be that. It was never created to be that. And I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy 5th edition. I think the 4th edition rule set would have suited this game infinitely better. And again, that might be controversial. I love 4th edition. And I think Baldur's Gate 3 would have been far, far better with that rule set on top of it, with its tactical gameplay. That would have been way better than 5th edition. And it still could have had all the role-playing and all of everything, and I think I would have loved it a lot better than I did if that were the case, even though that was never going to happen because that's an old, dead edition of the game, and obviously they're promoting the current edition, so that's what we got. I just don't think it translates to this experience. I really don't. And I tried with Baldur's Gate. I really did. I tried to love it. But I just found myself getting a bit frustrated with some of those 5th edition hang-ups in this sort of environment. So for me, look, this is going to be contentious. This is going to be very contentious. For me, I would probably put Baldur's Gate 3 about there. I can feel the hate already. It's just an opinion, people. Remember, you can't have a wrong opinion. It's just an opinion. Opinions are not facts. That's just what I think. And that's for me personally, that's about where it fell. Yeah. It's just, I don't like that style of game in the first place. And then when you throw a rule set that doesn't suit that style of game, for me, in my opinion, on top of a style of game that I don't particularly like, it just was a bit of a, yeah, a bit of a no-go for me. Just me. Just me. All right, let's talk about something that is a go for me, and that's Diablo 2 Resurrected. So Diablo 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, right? So you know that this is going to be high. Diablo 2 Resurrected was I think, a phenomenal remake. An amazing remaster. It is the bones of Diablo 2 still preserved because the game is still great, just with a gorgeous new coat of paint thrown over the top and new animations, and that's it. They left the rest alone. And I think that's awesome. There's some things that I think don't translate terribly well to the updated graphics. Things like light radius, for example, was actually quite useful in Diablo 2, or could be quite useful in Diablo 2. It just doesn't really work in the new 3D environments. Like, they probably should have just removed it, to be honest, and just had a standard light radius. And the gameplay does show its age. I'm not gonna sit here and be all rose-tinted glasses. It's a great, but it does show its age for sure. Having only the one skill on the right click does get a little tedious and repetitive. I only just found out recently that you can actually have your F keys hotkeyed down the bottom of your screen in the Resurrected. I didn't know you could do that, so I'm really keen to go back and give that a go. Look, I mean, this is an S. Like, Diablo 2 is an S anyway. Resurrected is Diablo 2, but prettier. There's a few things that didn't really work. There's a couple of weird glitches in there as well, like a couple of odd text glitches, a couple of odd voice acting glitches, a few little bugs that they probably need to iron out that are a bit jarring, that were not, like, especially, but they were not present in the original, now 23-year-old game. But apart from that, I thought it was glorious, and I loved my playthrough of Resurrected, and I will probably do another one, and I'll probably do another one after that, and I'll probably do another one after that. Like, if I want to play Diablo 2 now, Resurrected will be the way I go about it, right? And I love that you can switch back. If you still want that old school retro experience, you can switch backwards and forwards between the current remastered version and the original Diablo 2 2D version. So yeah, great. I think they did just awesome. Everything about it, love it. Planescape Torment. So, talking of D&D games, we talked about how I love Dungeons and Dragons. Planescape is my favorite Dungeons and Dragons setting. I love video games. And so I was really excited to play Planescape Torment because it's a classic, again, one of these classic, iconic video games in the pantheon of video games that I missed when it was out. I was busy playing Diablo 2 when Planescape Torment came out, and obviously Planescape Torment was nothing like Diablo 2, so I wasn't all that interested in it back then. But now, I very much was interested in it, and so I went back and tried it. It has not aged well. The mechanics of the game haven't aged very well. The way the game tells its story hasn't aged well. Holy shit. If you need to love reading to love Planescape Torment, because every NPC that you speak to in this game has a novel of dialogue that they want to talk to you about. It's it's almost like a visual novel. There's that much to read. Yeah, I was really disappointed that I didn't end up loving Planescape Torment as much as I did. Where to put it? Gosh. I might even put it there, guys. Like, I'll be honest. Like, yeah. I was really gutted. Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, I would probably rather play all of these over Planescape Torment. Yeah. That hurts. That really stings to put that there. because I wanted to love it so badly. I so badly wanted to love it, and I just didn't. That's really disappointing. Anyway, it's a classic. I'm glad I played it. I played a little bit of it until, you know, the dialogue just overwhelmed me. It just started to lay back, lay back and just let it wash over you. But yeah, a big disappointment for me, unfortunately. Need a lot more time on my hands to be able to dig into something like this. And maybe I will one day when I have that time, but at the moment I just don't. Alright, from Planescape Torment to Halls of Torment. This was a surprise hit this year out of nowhere. A little Vampire Survivors like Diablo style. And again, I think this got a lot of good press from people who were disappointed in Diablo 4. It got very popular on YouTube. It's a great little game. It's again, if you play Vampire Survivors, it's exactly like that, with a big injection of the original Diablo in its DNA, right? And I thought it was really good. I don't like roguelikes. It's not a genre I enjoy. It's not a game I'm going to continually keep going back to. But I kept having a crack at this one, probably nowhere near as much as I did Hades, but more than I did Spelunky, certainly. Halls of Torment, I would probably put... Gosh... about there, I reckon. I think about there. For what it was, I think it was $6 I spent on this game, and I've more than got my money's worth out of it. And I did not put anywhere near as many hours into it as my friends did. Like, they really just got sucked into this game. It became a bit of an obsession for some of the people I hang out with. I never got to that level, but for what it was, particularly given that I don't like that genre, I thought it was quite good, and I enjoyed the time that I spent with it. Path of Exile. So I played Path of Exile when it first came out and hated it. And never went back to it until this year when I gave it another shot. And I was really surprised at how enjoyable this game was. I just wish it had a better setting. I don't like the setting. And given that I play these types of games for the lore and the story just did, like, it was just... I don't know what the fuck the story was even about, to be honest. Like, it just didn't grab me. Had some great monster design, though. Had really fun gem system. The skill gem system was absolutely awesome to tinker around with. Had a really good time with that. The skill tree was not as intimidating as I thought it was going to be, although I can see how it would be very easy to make just a busted character and then have to just scrap it. I'm sure my characters that I made are completely fucking broken, and I'm going to have to go back and scrap them. I'm trying to think why I didn't persist with it. I think it's because, again, it's another game that demands your time quite a bit, and it's very involved. It's not like Diablo 2 where you can just sort of jump in. I just want to jump in and kill some skeletons, you know, and I can just kill some skeletons for a while and get a cool sword and feel good about myself and then log off. Path of Exile, you know, you might find a skill gem and you have to really sit down and think about, okay, does this help me out? Where am I going to put this thing? What's it going to do when I and it's great that it lets you freely swap all this shit around, so you can always just like drop it in, try it out. Nah, I don't like that. Take it back out. Try something else. Like the free form experimentation that Path of Exile encourages is fucking awesome. I really like. There's a lot about Path of Exile I really like. It was just a big time investment game, which was like to fully, not because it takes a long time to play, but to understand fundamentally what is going on in the guts of it, in the mechanics of the game is tricky. So I'm very much looking forward to Path of Exile 2. I think the updates that they've put in there, like for example, just even having the dodge, things like that, I'm really looking forward to. It looks gorgeous. So Path of Exile 2 is one I'll absolutely try when it comes out for sure. And I did very much enjoy Path of Exile. I just wish I had, I guess, more time to dedicate to it. Where would I put it? is the real question. I reckon it would probably sit here for the moment. Yeah. Yeah, I think about there for me. High B, trending towards an A. Again, I think if I had more hours to dedicate to it, I could see it easily being in the A tier. I just don't have the time for it, that's all. All right, Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb was fun. Again, genre I don't like, but enough extra stuff inside that, like, in addition to just the roguelike mechanics, you know, there was other things to do and worry about besides that. Nala loves this game. Really, really loves this game. I love the art of it. I love the style of it. I love the story. I love the writing. There's a lot of things I really like about Cult of the Lamb. I just don't love the gameplay. I didn't find the how do I put this? It just wasn't super precise. The controls, like the actual gameplay, the moving around, the combat wasn't super precise for me. So I didn't love... I loved everything about it, but I didn't love how it played, you know? And unfortunately with a roguelike, they're very much about how they play, because they're a very mechanical game, you know? So for me, it didn't really hold a candle to Hades, but I did really enjoy the... And I was terrible at it too, like I am with all roguelikes. Absolutely awful with it, as it. Where would I put it? I'd probably stick it... I liked it more than Halls of Torment. Did I like it more than Halls of Torment? No. I'll probably put it there. I think that's about where it sits for me at the moment. Yeah. That feels good. That feels about right. But yeah, great game. Great little game. I just wish the controls were a little bit better than they are. I think it's that, like... I think that what hurts it was that kind of like, it's like an isometric perspective, but it's not quite, you know, like it's kind of like this weird camera angle where it's like, it's lower down than an isometric perspective, but it's not a third person perspective either. It's kind of in between, and that kind of threw me off controls wise, and the controls not being super tight either on top of that, I think tripped me up quite a bit. Didn't bother Nala though. Like she was a demon at it. So it's obviously just me, and I'm totally happy to admit that that's the case. All right, Horizon Chase Turbo. I was really impressed with this game. I love arcade races. I wish there were more of them, more good ones around, and I will continue my hunt for trying to find good ones. But Horizon Chase Turbo, I think, was a good one. It was. It definitely felt like an old school retro racer. I said when I played it that it felt a lot more like F-Zero than, say, Cruisin' USA, which I think is what it was trying to emulate, or Top Gear. But for me, it was so fast and so reaction based. It really felt a lot like an F-Zero, playing as an F-Zero game, which I like as well. That's fine. It was just a bit of a expectation versus, reality got thrown off a little bit there when I played it the first time. But I've played it a few times since. I wish it had multiplayer. I don't... Is it just me? Like, am I missing something? Or does this game just not have multiplayer? It just doesn't make any sense that it doesn't. I don't understand why it doesn't. That's kind of like an integral thing to arcade races, but maybe it is and I just missed it. But yeah, really liked what I played of it. There's a few little things I thought were odd. Some of the difficulty, like, it gets quite difficult. Really difficult. And... some of that difficulty just kind of feels arbitrary. Like, you don't have a lot of control over... Like, there's nothing different that you can do better to overcome the difficulty. It's just kind of programmed to be almost unfairly hard, you know? There's a little bit of that going on, I felt, anyway. That could be just my lack of skill. I'm perfectly happy to admit that. But yeah, what I played of it, I really enjoyed. I'd probably stick Horizon Chase. I reckon probably around there for me. Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Maybe Sea of Stars was really good. No, I think I'd put it... maybe there. We'll go there. Maybe about there. It's a good one. If you like arcade races, it's a good one for sure. And there's no bullshit. That's what I liked about it. It was just like, get in, race, get out. There's no like menus you gotta slog through. There's no like bombarding you with fucking microtransactions and trying to sell you cars and shit. It's just racing. Which is getting a rarer and rarer thing to find. Alright, Splitgate. Splitgate was really good. Splitgate's a first-person shooter, an arena shooter. Arena shooters I'm a big fan of. They don't exist anymore like the arcade racer. They're a thing of the past. Things like Quake and Quake 2 and GoldenEye, all those sorts of games, Perfect Dark, those old arena style shooters. They're just kind of dead and gone now. Halo kind of killed them, I think. And Splitgate brings it back, you know, to some degree. It's not perfect. It's not a run around the level and find new guns. There's a little bit of that in Splitgate, but it's not really. You start with a loadout and that's what you've got. But it is, you're in an arena and you're trying to get a certain amount of kills on your team before the other team does, and then the game's over. And I had a lot of fun with it. The hook with this one is that there's a little bit of Portal added in. You've got a Portal gun on your wrist that you can use to make portal openings, like an opening and what do you call it? An entrance and an outrance? No, an exit. And you can shoot them onto different surfaces, and then you can walk through or even look through and use it as a window to shoot other people. So, you know, you can like literally face a wall, shoot one portal, turn around and shoot the other portal like way over there in the enemy base somewhere, or the enemy side of the map somewhere, and then use your portal as a window to look through that one and shoot people on that side of it. It's really fun, and some of the crazy things you can start doing with these portals once you wrap your brain around it is really, really cool. So I liked Splitgate quite a lot, actually. It just gets a little bit stale in terms of game types, I found. The best way to go in is just to play quick play if you don't want to sit and wait for ages. And quick play tends to just feed you the same game types over and over again with the same weapon loadouts over and over again. There's a decent variety of levels. Some of them are absolute dog shit. Some of them are really, really, really good. And but it does get quite repetitive quite quickly. It's a game that you would pair up with something else in an evening, you know? Like, it's not something I would sit down and just, I'm going to play Splitgate for, you know, 4 hours or something. You'll play Splitgate for a little while, and then, okay, I've had enough of that, let's go play something different. In that context, with some friends, great game. Really, really fun. Really enjoyed this one. I just wish it was a little bit more variety that was accessible. Where am I going to chuck this? Let's see. I think Splitgate would probably sit... It might even sit there. High Bs. I think it would sit in high B. That feels about right to me. Yeah. Yeah, good one. If you like those old school style shooters, arena shooters, and you like a little bit of Portal, Splitgate's a no-brainer. Really good game. Really enjoyed it. And Halo Infinite multiplayer, this is what I actually paired Splitgate with. So I'd go in, I'd play a couple of rounds of Splitgate, and then I'd go and play a couple of rounds of Halo Infinite. I haven't played the Halo Infinite campaign yet. I am playing the Halo Combat Evolved campaign with Scott, as you've probably seen on the channel. We're playing our way through that. But I haven't played the Infinite campaign, and probably won't for a little while. I just wanted to jump in and see what the multiplayer was like. I'm not a big Halo multiplayer fan. I'm not very good at it. Like, Splitgate was way more my speed than Halo Infinite. Those arena-style games, those shooters. But I did have fun. I did have fun with Halo Infinite. I did like what I played of it. I just didn't like it as much. It paired well because Splitgate's very fast and frenetic, and Halo Infinite is very slow and methodical and floatier. So they made a good pairing, and I think pairing it with Splitgate kind of increased my estimation of it. If I was just to play Halo Infinite on its own, I don't think it would sit quite as high. I think maybe it might sit there. Maybe. Yeah, I think that feels probably about right. Maybe. Yeah, no, I played a couple more times. Yeah, I think probably there. That's probably about where it goes, I think, for now. All right, Holo Cure. Wow, what a game. This is really cool. Holo Cure is really cool. Again, not a genre I like. Sam fucking loves this game. Nala fucking loves this game. I don't like it anywhere near as much as they do, but I did have a fun time with this one. I've got my... If you want to see me play it for the first time ever, that's up on the channel. And that is funny. Watching an old man fumble around with this anime girl bullet hell roguelike. Banging music. Really good soundtrack. I love the art style. I'm not familiar with the property that it is based on. I'm sure if you are, you will get an awful lot more out of it. But I really liked Holo Cure. I think, did I like it more than Halls of Torment? You know what? I think I did. Even though I love the Diablo, old school Diablo 1 vibe of Halls of Torment, I think Holo Cure was more forgiving. There was more variety in the characters, and they were more easily accessible. And it was just, I don't know. It was just a bit easier to get into, I suppose. But I mean, if you like one, you will probably like the other. Like, you know, they're very easy to recommend if you like that style of game. But yeah, cool game. Really cool game. Surprising. Like, I did not expect to like Holo Cure as much as I did. Alright, what do we got next? Pokemon Fire Red. Oh boy. Okay, so I'm in the midst of my playthrough of Pokemon Fire Red. I don't know. Alright, so Pokemon Red and Blue are like some of my absolute favorite games ever, right? And I'd never played Fire Red or Leaf Green, their remakes for GBA, because I never had access to a Game Boy Advance when they were around, really. I really, you know, going back to Kanto is so nostalgic. It is so wonderful being in that world again and playing through that story again. I'm really loving Pokemon Fire Red. Really, really, really enjoying it. And I think the only thing I don't love is the music. I don't like the remixed music as much as I hoped I would. I think I actually prefer the original Game Boy Pokemon Red and Blue tunes to the Fire Red remixes. They're just kind of a little bit... I don't know how to describe it. They're just a little bit off. They just feel slightly off for some reason to me. Like, they just don't... I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like, you can tell that they're influenced and based on those original tunes, but they've changed just enough to make them not as familiar or joyful or heartwarming as they were. And maybe that's just my nostalgia talking, but other than that, I mean, this is S tier. Fire Red's S tier, no question. That is, I'm loving that. I think I'm trying to think. I don't like the grind. I certainly don't like the grind. You know, EXP share. Some people hate it. I'm one of those people who love it. I love EXP share. You can feel its absence. I don't know if it comes into the game further on than when I'm up to. I'm not superly far into it. Maybe it gets added in at some point. If it does, hooray. You know, it's either there or it's there. It's one of those two spots for me. Like, if we're talking red, it's S tier. Fire Red, yeah, it looks great. You know, it's far enough along in generations that they've fixed up a lot of the stuff that was broken and wrong with the originals. You know, like psychic just dominating everything, and special attack and attack and all that sort of stuff being separated out, I think is the case in this one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, no, I think it sits there at S tier for me. Really good, and I'm loving playing it. Can't wait to play more. Given that, you know, we're coming up to Christmas, there's certainly at some point you will see me play more of this. All right, what do we got now? Super Mario Brothers Wonder. All right. So going back to my talking about Mario games, so I was talking about Super Mario Odyssey. So I'm not a Mario fan. I'm not a platformer fan. I'm not a Mario platformer fan. I don't like Mario platformers. Never have. And I was kind of hoping that Super Mario Brothers Wonder would change my mind. And it did a little bit. It did a little bit. This is a really, like, joyful game, much like Odyssey is. I wonder, like, you know, the Wonder Flower gimmick is definitely really cool. It's fun. I think it's a game that I enjoy watching other people play more than I enjoy playing myself, if that makes sense. You know, watching our friend G play this on our gaming trip away was like watching fucking poetry in motion. That man knows his way around a Mario, let me tell you right now. And getting to see somebody who's really good at Mario platformers playing a Mario platformer is like, it's just magic watching that happen. And it was really cool watching him take that on. I could happily have sat there for hours watching him play Mario Wonder. My partner as well, she's an old school Mario platformer fan. Super Mario Brothers 3 is her favorite game of all time. And so she played this with me for the first time recently. And again, I just watched her play, and those skills translated like 1-to-1. And she was just a beast at the game. And it was really cool to watch. Again, somebody who knows how to play this and who's good at playing it, play it. I'm not. I'm trying to think where this sits for me. Where do I put Super Mario Brothers Wonder? I think it probably goes... Is it C tier or has it climbed its way to B tier? That's what I'm trying to decide. I like it better than Three Houses. I like it better than Civ. I like it better than Boulders. I like it better than Spelunky. Do I enjoy it better than Diablo 4? Far out. If I put this lower than Diablo 4, the internet's going to crucify me. I think I did. I think I liked it better than Division. Probably liked it better than WoW. Gosh, maybe I like it more than I think I do. Looking at these. Cult of the Lamb, Halo Infinite. I think it probably sits there. Whoa, no, not up there. Sorry. I think it probably sits there. I think that's about where it goes for me. Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing that, you know, I don't love it myself, but I love that other people love it, and I love watching people who love it and play it. And that gives me a lot of joy. So, you know, take my ranking as what you will based on that. I think if I was in a room, locked in a room by myself, playing it on my own, and that's the only game I had to play, it would probably sit about here. Right? If it's just me, if I'm just ranking it purely based on my solo playthrough experience, I haven't played through the whole thing, but my experience with the game probably sits about there. But when you incorporate other people into the equation, and me being present and partaking and enjoying in their love of the game, that it escalates it for me significantly, you know. So I'm going to put it there, and if you don't like it, too bad, it's my tier list. because that's why I love games. You know, like I love sharing them. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you right now, is because I love sharing this stuff with other people. So taking that out of the equation just kind of seems to defeat the whole purpose of why I do this. You know. So I think about there is probably where it will live. All right. Next up, we have Halo Combat. Oh no, we got the Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary Edition, which I'm playing through right now with Scott. Having an absolute blast playing this. Really having a good time with Scotty. Holy shit, we're in an hour 40. I apologize, guys. I don't know how many games we've got. I'll try and get through these a bit quicker. Combat Evolved is fantastic. It's still fantastic. I think it would probably sit there. The remake is really good. I didn't expect it to look as good as it does, but it does. It still plays well. It's still fun. It's still funny. It's been great. Again, this is based on my experience with the game, playing cooperatively with Scott. If I was playing solo, it would probably be down more, but playing cooperatively through the campaign on Legendary with Scott has been so much fun. We have an absolute laugh every time we do it. You can watch us playing that on the channel. We have a real giggle. We're terrible. Well, I should say I'm terrible. Scott carries me through that game an awful lot, but I'm having a really, really fun time with it. I think that's an A. It's an A. It's a classic. That's Halo Combat Evolved is a classic. Nintendo Switch Sports. I only played this very, very briefly on my gaming trip away with my friend G. And I really enjoyed Wii Sports. I really enjoyed Wii Sports Resort when they came out. I was curious to see what Switch Sports was like. And it seems alright. I don't know. It's something about it seems to have lost a bit of the magic of those Wii titles. I don't know why. I don't know what it is specifically about it that doesn't sort of capture me the same way they do. But it's still quite a good game. And I think if you have a family... if you own a Switch and you've got a family of 4 or so or more, and you want a game that everyone can play together very easily, I think this would be a super duper easy recommendation in that scenario, especially around this time of year, Christmas time, right? It's that sort of experience really sings. For me, I'd probably put it there. Just because it was okay. It was alright, we had fun. I was using a really busted Joy-Con too, so that probably didn't help things. But it was good, it was fine. It wasn't anything super special, but it wasn't terrible either. Super Metroid, I played for the first time ever this year. I did not stream it or anything like that. This is just my buddy Gary and I sat on the couch for an afternoon and just absolutely bashed away at this for a good number of hours, and we had a really, really, really good time doing so. I can see why Super Metroid is so well loved. This got recommended to me at a convention I was at because I'm such a big Hollow Knight fan, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I love Metroidvanias, but I had never played a 2D Metroid or a Castlevania game in my life, so it was about time that got rectified. I don't love the sci-fi setting of the Metroid games massively. I'm probably more of a Castlevania setting fan than a Metroid setting fan. But Super Metroid was really good. Really, 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 really good. I reckon this would probably be low A, high B, probably low A. Again, playing it with somebody elevates the experience for me. If I was playing it solo, I don't know that I would have had as much fun. I'll probably drop it there. Yeah, I'll drop it there. It was really good. I'm glad. If you were watching this and you recommended that to me, thank you very much. It was very, very enjoyable. I wish I had more time. Again, another time-hungry game. I wish I had more time to dedicate to completing it, to playing it through. I just don't. But what I did play, and we played a fairly good chunk of it. We had a great time with. Islanders. Islanders was fine. I mean, it was more of an activity than anything. It was a pleasant way to pass some time. I'd probably throw it there. A very simple, puzzly city builder type game. It wants to be a puzzle game, but it also wants to be a really chill, relaxed game. And those two things tend to clash a little bit in the gameplay. It wants you to figure out these puzzles, but it doesn't really give you the tools to figure them out correctly or properly or in a satisfying way. I didn't dislike it. It was okay. I played it on the channel. You can go and watch it if you want to have a look at that. But if you like city builders and you like, it's a really good, I think this would be a really good bus or train game. Like if you've got just a few minutes and you want to just play something very chill while you're moving from place A to place B or while you're waiting for something, I think Islanders fits that niche really, really well. GoldenEye. Look, this is easy. This is going to be an S tier game. I'll probably put it... Oh, you're going to make me choose. I'll probably stick it there. This is funny. Like, GoldenEye, I went to play GoldenEye for the channel. Sorry, I'll zoom out on this a little bit. So, there we go. You guys can see what's coming up. I went to play GoldenEye on the channel for a laugh. Like, just to have a bit of a giggle at this old, you know, early 3D shooter that I used to love dearly, 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 dearly loved. And I did not expect it to hold up. I thought, we went in to have I went into with the assumption that we'd be having a bit of a laugh at the game's expense, essentially, right? Man, was I surprised with how much fun I still had now, 5 years later, is it? Must be 26 years, something like that, later, with GoldenEye. This game holds up. It is incredible how well this game holds up. It is still so fun. The only thing that is god-awful about it is the control scheme does not translate to modern controllers very well at all. You have to do some real legwork to change your mapping around enough to make it feel like it is usable on a modern controller. And even then, it's still not perfect. You know, like the shoot button's on the wrong side. The sticks are really twitchy. Like there's not a whole lot of finesse of movement, we'll say. But controls aside, you know, the fact that even though the controls are garbage, and I'm still giving it an S tier, I mean, that should say everything. It's still great. It's such a great game. You can watch me playing this on the channel. I'll stop saying that because you can watch me playing most of these on the channel. But actually, no, that's not the case coming up. Very few of these I've played on the channel. You can watch me playing that one on the channel, and just having an absolute laugh. I am having such a good time re-exploring GoldenEye again. It's still so good. It's still very, very much an S tier game. And I was surprised and elated to find that to be the case. All right, Wind Waker. So I'm playing the HD remaster on the Wii U with Nala at the moment. So Wind Waker, the original GameCube game, was Nala's first ever video game. And we're on a bit of a Zelda kick in the house here at the moment. And so we decided, let's play a Zelda game together. Nala's just come off the back of Tears of the Kingdom. She's finished that, completed it, loved it. And we've been watching some like video essays on older Zelda games, a lot of games that she missed out on being, you know, young. And she's gotten a real interest in going back and trying some of these older games. And so we decided to start with Wind Waker because it was her first game ever, and see whether it was still an experience that she finds enjoyable and that I find enjoyable. And we very much are. It's still great. It's an absolute classic. I think I prefer the look of the original to the HD remake. I mean, the HD remake is gorgeous, but I like the cell shading art style. I really wish they had just high-resified the cell shading rather than giving it a complete lighting system overhaul. I think that would have been much better. But that aside, it's still a beautiful looking game. It's still fun. Nala and I really like the linear aspect of it, to be honest. I know that's a bit of a, you know, a love it or hate it sort of thing with Zeldas, but we're really enjoying it. There's just some odd... Like, I still don't like the Great Sea. It's still just a big blue desert, I find. You know, Scott, who you've seen on the channel, he fucking loves this game, man. He loves Wind Waker, and he loves that sailing. But Nala and I are finding it just quite time-wasty. Quite padded. There's just not a whole lot of not much out there, really. Not a whole lot of interesting islands. The water itself, there's not a lot to find. It's you can see, like... Oh God, if they made a Wind Waker 2 now in a post Tears of the Kingdom Breath of the Wild world, wouldn't that be something? That'd be amazing. That would be an absolute killer game. And you can see that that's kind of what they were trying to do with Wind Waker, but they just didn't have the tech or the know-how or whatever to quite pull it off back then. So it's just a bit of a big empty expanse. But the actual, between, you know, the game, the linear game that you're playing between the big empty nothingness is really fun. We've just hit a wall where it's a bit, not a wall, but an odd, it's such a linear experience. Go here, do this, go here, do this, go here, do this. And then you get to a point where it's like, okay, go to one of these two places. We're in the tail end of the game now, the last two temples. But it tells you to go there, but when you go there, you can't access them. And it doesn't really give you much in the way of guidance on what to do to access them. So it's got like this hyper-linear experience that then suddenly there's just this huge gate that you run into, and it's like, now go explore and figure out how to get in here. And it's like, oh. It's just very sudden. And it's like, well, you can't get in here until you find out that you've got this item, and you can't get that item until you go here and get that item, and you can't get that item until you go back here and do this thing. And it's like, wow, man, imagine figuring all this out without the internet or a play guide or something for the first time. I'm sure a lot of you did. But it was just very jarring. Like, very sudden and very jarring wall that we ran into that we're now having to navigate getting around. But despite that, yeah, we're having a great time. I think this is an easy... it doesn't... Because of those flaws, it doesn't quite make S. It'll sit at a high A, though. But we love it. It'll always be special because it's Nala's first ever game. It'll always be very, very special to me and to her. And we're really, really enjoying playing through it again. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Hot Wheels Unleashed. So I've got a buddy, Justin, who adores this game. Loves it, loves it, loves it. I've heard other good things about it. It went on sale. I love, as I said in this list, I love a good arcade racer. There's not enough of them out there. I'd heard good things about Hot Wheels Unleashed, so it went on sale on the Switch. I gave it a go. Oh my god, what a pile of shit this game was for me. I don't get it. Is the Switch port just really bad? Like, or am I missing what other people are seeing in this game? Because it is horrific. The load times are obnoxiously long. The frame rate is not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. And I get, okay, yeah, you can blame those on the Switch, right? Sure. But the controls are horrendous. The controls are awful, and I can't imagine that's a Switch thing. That's got to be the case on everything. Like, they are so floaty and sluggish. It's like you're controlling the car through molasses or something. Like, and it's such a cool concept for a game, like racing toy cars around a bedroom on those like little Hot Wheels tracks. I want to love it so badly, but this was horrific. Like that's down there. That's like it's not Diablo Immortal bad, but it's about as close as I think we might get on this list. Honestly, it was so, yeah, I did not enjoy it at all. I cannot fathom how anybody would want to play that over like Mario Kart 8, for example, with how good and tight and great that game is. Or even like Horizon Chase, for that matter, you know? Yeah, that was wild to me. I don't understand. Tell me if I'm missing something, let me know. But at the moment, I don't see it. All right, Skyward Sword. So this is a bit of a cheat. I'm dropping it on the list anyway because it's my party and I'll cry if I want to. I haven't played. I've played Skyward Sword before. I'm not playing it at the moment. Nala is playing it, and I'm involved enough in that playthrough that I'm claiming it as a play this year, right? But I'm not physically doing the playing. I'm doing a lot of assisting and navigating and co-puzzling. I love Skyward Sword. I know it's a contentious game. I know it's a game that a lot of people dislike, but I really like it. I cannot argue with any of the problems that people have with it. I agree, and I still like it in spite of those issues. The HD version on the Switch is absolutely gorgeous. It is beautiful, and had I played it when we did our top 10 most beautiful games list, this would have been on there. It's my favorite Zelda, like style-wise, like looks-wise. And I don't know. I just think it's like, yes, it's repetitive. It gets super repetitive. I know it does. I understand that. But I love it all the same, you know. So for me, this one probably sits about there. Low A's. It's a hard one to rank. Like, I find Skyward Sword's a hard one to rank because the longer you play it, the less you like it. If the first third of a game, for me, it's I'm not sure whether this or Wind Waker takes it for the first third. But as you play through, it starts to drop off. By the time you get to the last, quarter of the game, it's kind of starting to sit down here somewhere, just because it gets super duper repetitive. But the things I like about it, I really like about it. I'll stick it there for now. Maybe I'll come back and revisit this one as we do our playthroughs of the older Zelda games in 2024. This might end up being on the list again, and maybe I'll have a different opinion of it then. But for the parts I've experienced of it so far, I think it sits somewhere around here. For now. Maybe. I really liked Super Metroid. No, I'll put it there. Alright, Phoenix Wright. Ace Attorney. I haven't played much of this game. I only just started it. I liked what I played. I wasn't expecting it to be such a visual novel. I don't know what I was expecting, really. I think I said on my Instagram that I thought it'd be more akin to like something like Professor Layton. But it wasn't. Maybe things change as I go into it, but it was very much more a visual novel with some logic interactions, right? Which I didn't dislike. It was like didn't quite meet expectations or live up to what I was expecting it to be. Where would I put it? It's hard to rank because I haven't played very much of it. I'd probably stick it maybe here. Maybe there for now. But again, I can see this being on the list again next year as I play it more. And I can see it potentially climbing much higher next year. But for now, the little bit that I've played, it sits here for now, but I take that with a grain of salt because I am only just starting to tinker around and get into it, Alright, A Short Hike. Has anyone else played this game? Am I like the only person on the planet that's played A Short Hike? It feels like so. Sorry, it feels like that's the case. This is just a little 3-hour single-play narrative game, and I love that genre of games. I really do. I love having those little narrative experiences that you can have, and then they're done, and you move on. Walking simulators, as they're derivatively referred to. I didn't really know anything about A Short Hike. I picked it up on a complete whim, actually. I think just based on its looks and just the description of how it sounded. It was on a really good sale for Black Friday this year. And so I picked it up and I played it one morning with a cup of tea. And yeah, this is probably the best game I've played this year. This was amazing. This was just absolutely incredible. It's such a good... It's like... I'm trying to think of how I can describe it to you if you haven't played it. And I don't... Without ruining it, right? So your expectation... I don't want to say it's too... It was great for me, but I don't want to build it up too much because it is a very small experience and in every facet, right? This is like if you took Breath of the Wild, right? And you took all of the monsters out and the combat out of Breath of the Wild, and then you like squashed that experience down into a 3-hour shell, and that's kind of what you get in a short hike. That's the best way I can think of to describe it. It's so charming. It's really funny. It's about a bird who has kind of begrudgingly been taken away on vacation and has no phone reception on this little island that she's having to stay at for a little while. And so, in order to get phone reception, decides to climb to the top of the tallest mountain on the island. And that's kind of the story of the game, but it's more about the journey and how maybe not having phone reception isn't actually such a bad thing, and maybe you can just enjoy being on this holiday and being outdoors and meeting people and talking to people. It's just a beautiful, beautiful little story, and for me, this is like, oh God, this might actually sit. It's going to be there or there for me. Like, I really just adored this little game so much. I'll say it sits there. But if you get the chance to play it and you like those kinds of games, this is one of the best I've ever played. I really liked it. But again, with the caveat being that it is a small experience, okay? Just it's everything about it. The story is small in scope. The game itself is only a few hours long, 2 hours long, 3 hours long, something like that. Everything about it is so just, as long as your expectations don't try and grow outside the boundaries of that, I think it's almost perfect. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I can't rave about it enough, actually. All right, Deep Rock Galactic. Oh, excuse me. You know what? I'm going to put it there. Just because I've played Diablo 2 for so much over the years. And Resurrected, yes, is S tier, but it is a remake of a game I already love. A Short Hike was an absolute surprise out of nowhere. It's going there. All right, Deep Rock Galactic. This is super fun. This is really fun. I jumped in on a few games of this now with Sam and our friend Gary, and we have had an absolute blast playing Deep Rock Galactic. I was a bit worried that it was going to be too Minecrafty. I think I described it in my journal as I was worried it was going to be Minecraft with guns. It's not. It's a really great cooperative wave-based shooter with really interesting objectives, really interesting mechanics, the way you can sculpt and mine the terrain. Excuse me. The classes feel distinctly different. They each have things that only they can do and do very well, that you get jealous of. Like, everyone is jealous of everybody else's class and what they can do, which is the right way to do it. Yeah, I really love Deep Rock. I think this probably sets for me this year. Probably sits about there. Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah, I think it's probably about there. It was really, really good. Really good. If you get a chance to play it and you've got a few buddies, this would not be very fun at all. Like, it's a co-op shooter. You need friends with you to play this. If you're playing it solo, it would be like a D tier game. It'd be like way down there. So it's a B, high B, trending A with friends. Okay. Florence. Florence was a very tiny little visual novel that was about the main character, Florence, and it's about finding love, falling in love, falling out of love, and moving on. And it was just a lovely little tale. Very, very short, very esoteric. The art was beautiful. It didn't do anything particularly groundbreaking. It's not a blow your head off kind of experience. It didn't really have like the emotional punch I think I was hoping for in these types of games. It was just kind of a nice time, you know, like it was good, but it didn't, you know, it didn't amaze. I'd probably stick this one probably in sort of mid C's, probably right there. Thought it was. No, actually probably there. It was nice. It was a nice game. It didn't do anything crazy. The story was very cliche, you know, but cliches are cliches for a reason. I can see this hitting home with a certain audience of a certain age experiencing similar events in their life at the time that they play it. Then I can see it really being incredible. I am not in that age bracket. I'm not experiencing those events at the moment. I have in the past, and I resonated with that. And that was lovely. And it's just a lovely experience, honestly. It's got a lot of heart, you know, like it's a lot of heart has been poured into this. But I think maybe it thinks that the story it's telling is more, you know, unique and wow than it actually is, and maybe that's just a product of, again, the age bracket maybe it's aimed at. But yeah, a perfectly lovely little game. Greece. Greece. Oh, I'm going to be honest, I was disappointed. This is a game I've wanted to play for such a long time. And it is gorgeous. It's one of the most beautiful games I've ever played or ever seen. It is like a moving piece of art. I took so many screenshots while playing Greece that I would happily print out and put on my wall. But the game itself is pretty mundane. Like, it's pretty by the numbers, basic platformer. The art does kind of get in the way of the mechanics of the game. It's not always obvious where you can and can't go. It's not always obvious what you can and can't jump on. Even using the same art assets, like a rock, for example, in one place it's not jump onable and you walk past it, and another place, that same picture of a rock now is a platform that you can jump on, but because you've walked past it before, your brain doesn't identify it as a platform. There's lots of that sort of little sort of annoying technical stuff in the game, and that leads to some frustration. I had certainly some frustrations playing Greece, and I think while it's beautiful to look at, I think it's not. I think it almost trips over itself, trying to tell you, "Hey, look, I'm an emotional narrative game, right? Like, look how." Look how resonant I am, and the story I have to tell, and how deep, and the emotions, all the emotions. It kind of trips over itself a little bit too, like trying too hard to, like it's simultaneously doing that too much and too subtly for you to really understand what the game is even about. It's a game about grief, by the way, and a girl moving through her grief. It's supposed to represent that. But it's so esoteric that that message does get really lost. And because you never connect with the protagonist in any meaningful way, her journey doesn't really resonate with you. Like, there's never the big heart punch that I think maybe the designers were expecting it to have. It didn't have for me anyway, because I didn't know the character at all. It was just a picture on a screen that was moving around, you know. I didn't really get to know her or know her plight or know what she'd been through for it to really resonate properly, you know. So it was a little bit all over the place, Greece. And I was a bit disappointed by it, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to put Greece at... I'd probably put it... I'm going to put it here. I'm going to put it about there. Okay? For me. I think it's weird that I'm going to put it in D tier, and yet it's a game that I think everyone should at least try, just because of how it looks. Like, it's just beautiful. And screenshots don't really do it justice. You have to play it and move through it and be in it to really fully experience the artistry and the animation and all that sort of thing. the story resonance just and the emotional resonance just wasn't there. It got lost in its own I don't know what the word is. It just, yeah. It lost it there somewhere. Much like I lost that sentence. It's late. It's late in the night. I'm out of drink. Look. I'm doing my best here. We're nearly there. What are we in? We're at 2 hours, 10 minutes. If you are still here and watching, I really appreciate it. I hope this has been a fun and enjoyable experience. Thank you very much for being so wonderful and sticking around and hanging out with me for this long. All right, we're nearly there, people. Moonlighter. Moonlighter was a game that was recommended to me. I can't remember why it got recommended to me, but a friend of mine suggested that I try it. That was years and years and years ago. I finally tried it now, and I didn't particularly care for it. Again, it's a genre I don't like. It's a roguelike. This is a straight-up roguelike, right? However, it's almost like two games. It's straight up roguelike, and then also there's an economic game on the side where you're basically delving into a dungeon, retrieving items and artifacts and just bits and pieces of shit, and then bringing them back to your shop. That's what you do during the night. During the day, you bring them back to your shop and you set prices, like really granularly set prices, like on an individual kind of basis, and try and sell them to people who come into your shop. And it's just kind of a crapshoot as to what's worth what. And you got to try and look at people's reactions to your prices to determine whether a price is too high or too low, or something's way underpriced, or no one's ever going to buy it because it's ridiculously priced, right? And that's the game. And I think a couple of things turned me off. Number one is the game does a absolutely shit job at teaching you how to play it. Like, there's no real tutorial. There's no explanation as to what any of the mechanics really do. It just throws you in, and it's like, go play. And then it throws you into the shop side of things, and there's a little bit more of a tutorial in the shop, a little bit. So that's good. But the other side of things, like I found myself, at some point you get an amulet that you can use to exit the dungeon when you're ready with your loot that you have, right? But for me, at certain points, the amulet, which is like a little icon on your screen, it'll just randomly flash, and it never tells you that that's the amulet to exit the dungeon, right? It's just there. So when you see something flash, you're like, oh, that's flashing. I should hit that button. Oh, fuck, I ended that run because I just exited the dungeon before I meant to. And then you would think, first time, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, yeah, okay, shame on me. I did that more often than not because I forgot that was the amulet that exits the dungeon, and it would just, again, randomly just kind of flash at me and be like, oh, press, oh, shit, crap, I'm out now. That was frustrating. The combat's okay. It's a bit button mashy. There's not much going on there combat-wise. The economic game didn't really engage me very much. So all around, I didn't love it. Unfortunately, it looks cool. The art's pretty cool, but other than that, it's not one I can see me going back to. I would put it in a D tier. Yeah, I think I'd sit it about there. Torment, I at least like the setting of more. I'd probably put it there, for me. If you like roguelikes and you like economic games, oh man, Moonlighter would be right up your alley. But I don't particularly care for either of those, and so it was just a bit of a flat-out miss. What Remains of Edith Finch? This was on my to-play list. God, I've had this on my to-play list almost since it came out. Is that 10 years ago now? I think it's about 10 years ago. Because, again, I love these types of games. I love these single-play narrative experience games. And this was kind of held up as like a pinnacle of that genre, right? If you like those games, you must play Edith Finch. That's kind of what the vibe I got around this game. Some of my favorite games of all time are in this genre, right? So I've been very, very, very excited to play what was sort of held up as to be part of like the upper pantheon of that genre. And maybe the hype did it a disservice. Maybe the other games that I've played in the genre, sort of the fact that I played them before Edith Finch didn't do Edith Finch any favors. But Edith Finch just didn't... It was good. It was good, but it didn't hold, to me, it didn't hold a candle to games like the ones that I love, like Firewatch, or To the Moon, or Virginia. Those other games in the same genre, it never really reached those heights for me. It never really had the huge emotional, like just bang that hits you in the heart like those games do. And again, maybe that was a problem on my end with expectations. This was it's still a lovely game. Like I played this with my partner. We had a lovely evening sitting on the couch and playing through this. Like it's almost like an interactive movie, right? And if you don't know, I won't spoil it at all, but it's about a girl who goes home to her family home and is basically going through the history of all the members of her family and what happened to them. And I won't say any more than that. But it's certainly nice. It's a good playthrough. The stories are good, but it just never had that really big, punch that I was chasing in this type of game. So I would probably put... Where am I going to put Edith Finch? Oh, this is agony. I'd probably put Edith there, I think. I think I'm going to put her there. Now I'm thinking. It's so hard because it's such a different experience to these other games that are around it. It's really hard to rank. It's like saying, like, do you like the Shawshank Redemption better than Baldur's Gate? It's like, what? They're just so different, and like it's hard to even consider that. Like they're not even the same medium. It's almost like that with Edith Finch. It was still good. I'll leave it there for now. It was like a high C, but it didn't. Yeah, I think I was expecting something amazing, and it didn't quite get there, But still very good. Still would recommend trying it. Maybe it's better than that. Maybe it should be there. Yeah, I'll put it there. I'll stick it there. Alright. Wave Race. I played this on stream fairly recently. This was one of my favorite games on the Nintendo 64 back in the day. And so, I don't know, I just felt like playing it. I saw it on the Switch Online Nintendo 64 page, and I was like, oh my god, Wave Race. I haven't played that in years. I'm going to play Wave Race. And so I did. And it was fun. It was really fun. It was so really cool how well this held up. Like, I mean, really cool how well this held up. I had such a good time. And it was kind of mind-blowing. Much like GoldenEye, like, so surprising how good it still is. And it sort of makes you think back as to, like, wow, this must have just absolutely blown me away back in the day when I played it the first time, Wave Race is going to go... Look, I think before I rank Wave Race, say that 5 times fast. Rank Wave Race. Rank Wave Race. Rank... you knew it was going to happen. Let's see if we need to do a bit of a reshuffle here. Because I'm thinking Deep Rock is actually a low A. And I'm thinking Metroid's actually a low A. And I'm thinking Wave Race is actually a high A. I think it goes about there. Does it go there? For me, no, not quite. For me, it probably sits about there. But it's so fucking good. It's so good. The water physics, just everything, like, it just changes the game for the race, you know. Trying to you race a craft that you don't have complete control over. It really changes things. Yeah, I love it. Really cool. All right. 40k Darktide. Darktide's good. Darktide I'm playing in tandem with Deep Rock Galactic. I like Deep Rock Galactic more so far. The reason I like Deep Rock Galactic more is because in Darktide, again, like Deep Rock, there's 4 classes, but the classes don't feel distinct from one another from the get-go, right? Whether you choose, like, regardless of what you choose in Darktide, you're going to kind of be playing the same game as everybody else for a little while until you level up your class and start to get a little bit more individualistic. I don't know if that's a word. It is now. Individualistic feel to it, like an individual powers and things that make you distinct from the other people. That there's tiny little shreds of it at the start, but it's not enough. Like hitting people with a sword or shooting them with a gun is the best thing to do at the beginning of the game, no matter what class you're playing, right? And so you're going to be doing an awful lot of that for quite a long time before you start to feel like you're any different from the other people playing. That's a bit disappointing. Whereas in Deep Rock, the classes feel different from each other immediately. And then as you delve into leveling them up and unlocking different like upgrades to their abilities and things, they just feel more and more and more distinct. Like what makes them distinct gets better, and that helps them to feel even more distinct. Like I'm playing the Scout in Deep Rock and I'm zipping around like Spider-Man, you know. None of the others can do that. They always shout obscenities at me every time I zip past them while they're very monotonously trying to dig a staircase or you know, climb up some mountainside, and I can just I'm there. That feels cool, and I can do it immediately in Deep Rock. Darktide, I'm playing a Psyker. I don't feel like a Psyker. I've got a couple of really shitty powers that don't do a whole lot, and by far the best way to kill things is with a gun and sword, and that's the same as everyone else. So that's disappointing. However, having said that, I'm a big 40k fan. The game looks great. I hate the music. The music does not suit this game at all. I turned it off immediately, and the game immediately felt so much more atmospheric because of that. But the gameplay itself is fun. It's still buggy. There's a few glitches I came across that were a bit... nothing game-breaking, just, you know, bodies having seizures and things like that, or falling through walls or floors. Trying to think where to put it. At the moment, it's probably... Look, it's probably up... It probably sit here, I reckon. Yeah, probably sort of in the mid-Bs for me at the moment. I think it will get better the more I play it, because you'll start to feel cooler. Your class will actually start to feel like what you chose. But I'm only in the early stage of the game, and at the moment it's like, yeah, I'm having fun. I'm just not having quite as much fun as Deep Rock, you know? But I love the setting, so that elevates it. All right, new Pokemon Snap. Oh, this is excruciating. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this is excruciating, right? It's because I love Pokemon Snap. A lot of people love Pokemon Snap. That's not a very, you know, controversial thing to say. Pokemon Snap is a very, very well-beloved game for a lot of people for a very, very good reason. I'm one of those people. And everything that made Pokemon Snap amazing is here in new Pokemon Snap. And it looks gorgeous, and it's still fun. That gameplay, the rail shooter gameplay of taking photos of Pokemon in a little zone is still really super fun. That part of the game, right? If I was just ranking that for new Pokemon Snap would be an S tier game. Okay? However, this game is so... Oh, it's so frustrating. It's so bogged down in tutorials. It is like obnoxious in how much it wants to hold your hand. And it doesn't let your hand go. It just keeps holding your hand over and over and over as you go through the game. There's these huge periods of just text-based dialogue, story, exposition is the word I'm trying to think of. Exposition. That is super boring. It's not engaging at all. And it is lengthy. I played this game on stream. You can go and watch this. For... What was it? Was it nearly 2 hours? It must have been close to 2 hours. An hour 40, something like that. And I went on... In that time, I went on very few actual photo snapping safaris, right? A lot of that was rapidly pressing the A button to crawl my way through thousands and thousands of words of tutorial and dialogue. For what is like, this is a game where you move the joystick around and you press a button to snap a picture on the camera. Like, it's a very simple, basic game. And it frustrates me that the amount of tutorial they feel like they need to dump on you for such a basic premise. They just don't match. It just doesn't... I don't understand. I don't understand. And so that's really frustrating. And so, like, the photo snapping part of the game is here. The tutorial part of the game is here. So I'm like, where do I put this? When it lets me play the game, I am 12 again. I have like starry eyes and a huge grin on my face, and I am absolutely loving it when it lets me play. But it so badly just doesn't let you play. It so badly wants to tell you how to play in excruciatingly intricate detail, rather than just letting you play the game. And the original Pokemon Snap never did this. It just plopped you on the rails and said, go have fun, take photos of Pokemon. Courses are also gated, like getting to, like, you're on a fairly sizable island by the looks of it, and biomes are really heavily, like, you're going to have to play the same level over and over and over and over again to earn enough points to progress to the next biome, and that's going to be really repetitive and really boring. Even though, you know, that gameplay is fun, it's not fun 8, 9, 10 times in a row just so you can go and see something different, right? I'm so conflicted on this game. I really am. I think... Because I like the actual Pokemon Snap part of it, I just adore. I adore it so much. They've done it. They've nailed it. They've got it so right. And everything else they've gotten so wrong. And that's, like, it's just frustrating more than anything, seeing how close to greatness it is, you know? I feel like it's probably got to be... Oh, God. It's probably there. It's probably there. But like I said, the actual gameplay, like the game that the game that you play, that you actually engage in, is S tier, right? It's everything else that puts it down here. And it's, funnily enough, like, I love that gameplay so much that I still want to play it, even though it frustrates the absolute shit out of me and makes me so, like, just let me play the fucking game. I still want to go back and play it because I love the part that I love about it so much. So I don't know. I don't know if that constitutes a recommendation or not, but that's how I feel about new Pokemon Snap. So close. It was so close to being amazing. Alright, Death's Door is the last game I played in 2023. I don't think I'm going to play anything new between now and the end of the year. I find it very unlikely. It'll probably be playing more of what I've already got in this list. So this is likely to be the last new game I play, and this is probably one of them that I will be playing more of between now and the end of the year. Death's Door is fantastic. Death's Door is a Zelda-like, but like an old-school Zelda-like. I think like A Link to the Past, that style of game, like a top-down Zelda. It's got a really cool world, a really cool story. The writing's really fun. The characters are really cool. I don't love the art. The art's okay. I wish it looked like it does on this little cover image here. That would be fucking amazing. But the game does not look like this. The combat is... I mean, it's not perfect. The combat's very button mashy. There's not a lot of nuance to it. And it can be quite difficult at times. Like, it can be brutally difficult in parts. And it can also be just like child's play easy at times. And it swings between those two ends of the pendulum without warning, you know? You'll be plodding along thinking this is easy, and then bang, you will just get your ass absolutely handed to you as you hit a hard wall out of nowhere. But it is great. Like, it's honestly one of the best things I've played this year, despite the shortcomings that I have with it. I think this is probably going to be A tier, and I think you should play it if you like Zelda likes, with a cool little sense of humor. You are playing as a crow, or a magpie, it looks like in Australia. We would call it a magpie. Who is a reaper of souls, basically, and is going around basically making the world right because it ain't. I won't go too in-depth into the story. Some of it's left open to interpretation, but it's quite cool. It's got a very... John Wick sensibility to it, you know, like this. It's like there's this agency of crows that go around reaping souls and taking care of souls, going out and kicking ass in the world, which is pretty cool. I'd probably put it there, I think. Yeah, it probably sits there at the moment for me, but it's a great game, A-tier game, really good if you like those sorts of Zelda style games. I would heartily recommend it. All right, and that is it. Holy shit, 2.5 hours. My friends, thank you for hanging out for so long. But that is the entirety of what I played in 2023. And I think, you know, I've played some games, you know, like that's a lot. For me, that's a lot of games. And we'll see how close to this number we get next year, but I plan on doing this again. I'll keep my journal. Again, if you want to follow along with my journal online, it's on Instagram at Jamie Dean Plays. You can also find the channel there as well at Sidescrollin. We're terrible at updating it, but it's there. You know, if you want to click follow on a thing and you haven't followed a thing for a while, that's the one you can do. But I had a really good time doing this. I hope you had fun hanging out for this long. I hope your butt is going to recover. It's not too numb. I hope you enjoyed yourself. And let me know what you think. Let me know, did I do a pretty good list here? Do you agree with where I've ranked things? Do you disagree? Where would you have put some of the things I put on this list? And I'd love to hear in the comments below some of your favorite things that you've played in 2023. Give us like your top 5 games that you've played this year. I'd love to go through and have a look at what everyone else has played this year. But this, you can see my top 10. I'll do a real quick top 10. Would be A Short Hike, Diablo 2, Resurrected, Pokemon Fire Red, GoldenEye 007, Wind Waker, Wave Race, Hades, Mario Odyssey, Halo, and Zelda's a cheat because I didn't play it. We'll say Deep Rock Galactic. That would be my top 10 for the year so far. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming and hanging out once again. I really appreciate it. And I don't know if we'll be around. I'm sure one of us will be around. The other guys might do one of these as well, which would be cool. And you better see what they played in 2023. But until next time, my friends, As always, I hope you have a great day, hope you have a great night, great evening, whatever it is for you there. And make sure you keep side scrolling. All right? Take it easy.